This here is MinisForum's EliteMini TH50, a Windows 10 Pro mini PC that you can upgrade to Windows 11 that is powered by Intel's 11th Gen Core i5 11320H. It's a quad-core chip. Maximum turbo is 4.5 GHz and it has 8 threads. But most importantly, it's got Iris Xe graphics, enough power to do a bit of gaming. Titles like GTA 5 in my testing do actually run really well with a good average frames per second, and even something very demanding like Cyberpunk 2077 getting over 30 frames per second at 720p is quite impressive considering that it's Intel integrated graphics here, not dedicated graphics at all. So this mini PC, you can add additional storage to it. It can take two 2.5-inch SATA 3 drives. It does have a PCIe 3.0 spec drive for the boot drive, which is 512 gigabytes, and 16 gigabytes of RAM, which is sadly not upgradable. Other specs include two 2.5 gigabit LAN ports, Wi-Fi 6E, and it can run 3 displays, 2 of which up to 8K 60, which is really impressive considering the size of it.
With the TH50, we have this, which is a user guide, a VESA mounting bracket with some screws, and also some SATA 3 screws for a 2.5-inch drive. 2 of them, in fact. You can see here, we've got the SATA connectors, and this is a bracket to hold the 2 drives in place. And I'll show you the internals of that shortly. They do give us an HDMI to HDMI cable, and our power cable right here. The charger, this one's quite small, and it's a 65-watt charger. Now, this connection, very common. It's like that infinity-style plug. So if you need to source a new one or for a different region, very easy to do so. Note that it is powered by Type-C here, not your typical DC barrel connector. This mini PC has a lot of connections on it, and I do like this. So we have 2 audio jacks, so separate microphone, then headphones, power button with a status LED behind it, 2 USB 3.1s right here, and this is our Type-C, well, Thunderbolt 4. So this supports 8K 60Hz, which is very good to see. Then on either side, well, this side here, we have an exit vent, so all the hot air is going to be coming out of there. And this side, the same too. And you'll see why, because the fan, that's actually on the top here. You can just see it below. It's white, very big fan, and it does have pretty good sound-wise, not a lot of noise to it, and pretty good cooling, though, to it. And I'll get onto the thermals later on with this video. And here you'll see we've got 2 gigabit LANs here. Now, sorry, 2.5 gigabit LAN ports. So very quick, those two. They're from Intel. We've got HDMI here, which is 4K 60, DisplayPort 8K 60 there. And this is our Type-C to power it. Kensington lock slot, another 2 USB 3.1s, and 2 USB 2s. So it really does have a lot of connections on it, a lot of ports, and I love the fact it's got the 2 LAN ports with it, and you can run 3 displays. Now on the underside here, this is where you can slot in that mounting bracket to put it on the back of a TV or a monitor. What I'll do now is remove the 4 screws on each corner there, and we'll take a look at our internals. Here we have our boot drive. So this is a PCIe one, so PCIe 3.0 spec. Just underneath it, if you remove that, you can see then the Realtek wireless card. The good thing is it is upgradable, so you're able to swap this out, change it over for something a little bit quicker if you wanted to, say Intel's AX201. Our backup BIOS battery is there. That's saving all of our CMOS settings and everything that's in there. And we've got these 2 connectors there. That's for our SATA 3 2.5-inch drives. The drives themselves, they go on the back here, okay? So you screw them with that bracket into place here, so you can put 2 2.5-inch ones right there, and then connect those connectors up. So we don't have a secondary M.2 slot, unfortunately, which I kind of would have preferred if they'd somehow been able to make a bit of room for it along there. It would have been really good. Now you can also flip the motherboard around, which I'm going to do, but it's not recommended because you can easily damage the wireless antennas that are on the other side. And our fan, which is large, we've got the fins right here either side pushing that hot air out, and you can just see the 2 transfer pipes just in there, which is great. So they really do an excellent job, MinisForum, with the cooling on their mini PCs. Here on our BIOS, you can see that we don't have a lot of options here. Now the RAM, it's soldered onto the motherboard, so we can't do anything with it. Now it's running at 3.2 gigahertz, But it could have been, since it sold it on, that really fast 4,266 megahertz. We didn't get it with this one, unfortunately. So that's the downside of this mini PC, no upgradable RAM. So there's no advanced settings here, unfortunately. Other brands that I do cover in the channel, they give us all the options. You can get yourself into a bit of trouble, but you can adjust power limits and tweak even memory timings or undervolt, but you can't here with this one. So we've got boot order and then our boot override, and you can change secure boot. That's it for BIOS settings. Now looking at Windows here, we do have approximately 200 gigabytes dedicated to the Iris Xe graphics. So 11th gen chip here, the Core i5-11320H. The H series being 45 watt part. It does have 4 cores, 8 threads, maximum turbo is 4.5 gigahertz, and you see there Windows 10 Pro. So no problems with the license, that activates. And as mentioned there at the start, that you can easily upgrade this to Windows 11. It's not a problem. You just need some patience to run it, do the upgrade, and you'll be fine with that. It does support it, this mini PC. Now, our internal storage, so 512 gigabytes worth of it, and it's PCIe the 3.0 spec. You can see those speeds aren't too bad, but yeah, I have seen better, of course. So Samsung drives tend to perform a little bit better, like their 970 Evo, the Evo Plus, but still, the random reads there, and the writes especially, do look quite good. So it's a relatively quick drive and a lot faster, of course, than SATA 3. You've got the option of adding those 2 extra 2.5-inch drives if you want plenty of extra storage. It could either be a SATA 3 SSD or spindle hard drive for the best kind of storage capacity for the price. You can really expand upon that. Now in the device manager, you'll see that, of course, the processor is listed 8 times with its 8 threads. And you'll notice too that this is the Realtek chip. Now, it's a lot better than I thought. The other Realteks that I've tested out haven't been so great. This is actually my first time testing out this one, the RZ608. It's Wi-Fi 6E, and I do find it to be very quick. So I'm getting approximately 1.4 gigabit transfers with my Wi-Fi 6 Asus router, which is excellent. It's actually a little bit faster than what I'm seeing with the Intel AX201 and the 200, which is pretty good there. And then you'll see there's the drive, if you're interested in the model number of it, and the Iris Xe graphics there with 96 executional cores with that. Now, this chip is based off 10 nanometer process. Finally, they got away from 14 nanometers with their 14 nanometer plus. So it was getting a bit ridiculous. And you can see that it is about approximately a $309 recommended price part that we've got here. And it's configured, well, 35 watts is it? Sorry, not 45 that I said before. It's 35, and they can configure it down to 28. So performance-wise, when I take a look here at our Geekbench 5 score, this score right here, single core, is very similar to the Core i5-1135G7, which is a 28 watt part. And that's a 4.2 gigahertz maximum turbo chip. This one's 4.5, but the multi-core score here is where it does excel. So this is approximately about 500 points higher than the Core i5-1135G7, which you see a lot of in laptops. So this one performing a little bit better, being the H part at 35 watts. Cinebench R23, so the multi-core score here, over 5,500 points, is very good for a quad-core chip with the 8 threads that it has. It puts the performance above that of the Core i7-1165G7 by quite a nice margin. You can see there, just over 620 points, and it's somewhere around the score of a Core i7-11700K, which is a desktop part with a much higher power limit than what we have with this particular chipset. Looking now at our 3D Mark scores, so Firestrike, over 4,200 points there. That's good for integrated graphics. Now, I have seen higher from the Iris Xe with the 96 executional cores, but that's with systems that do run that faster, 4,266 megahertz RAM, which really does aid the integrated graphics there. But still, that's a very good score. And Night Raid here, which is a benchmark from 3D Mark again that's recommended for integrated graphics, this one, where it does very well, getting just over 16,000 points here. The CPU score, just over 10,000. Our video playback performance with the Iris Xe graphics is excellent. So this is a 4K HEVC 60 frames per second file, and I am recording screen capturing in 60 frames per second. So you should be able to see that this is running just fine, perfectly. Looks very good. No issues with that. So it does handle demanding codecs just fine, like this one, which is my 10-bit test file. Loads up really quick, and that is not dropping any frames at all. Okay, so really quick, smooth playback, and not a problem. I've come to expect this with all of the modern integrated graphics. They handle video files just fine. Video editing now with Adobe Premiere Pro. The timeline relatively quick, but I do have it set to just a quarter playback. Now, 4K editing I think is fine as long as it's basic edits, which is what I'm doing right here with my timeline. I don't have any layers or anything like that. It's just simple editing, and I'm not even grading the video here at all with this clip that I do have. Now, half playback, you see that that is actually still fine. I'll just quickly play it for a few seconds. Great, it doesn't seem to be a few stutters there at the half playback resolution, but it seems fine. What I'll do now is my test, where I'll export it 1 minute here of our 4K YouTube preset, and we'll see how long it's going to take. Now, it should be under 1 minute with the Iris Xe graphics and this particular spec of Mini PC. Start on the timer and export, which is about a second later. We'll see how long this is going to take. And it's ripping through that very quick. We can see here that most of the load is the Iris Xe graphics, around 90, just over 90%. And the CPU is at about 60, not completely fully loaded there. Now it's about to end. And there we go. You could say around 50 seconds. That's an excellent score to encode 1 minute of 4K footage here to the YouTube preset with Adobe Premiere Pro. Onto our gaming performance with GTA 5. So I have it set to 1080p on the medium preset, basically for graphics. It's in the middle, everything. That's the slider for the view distance and for our pedestrian density. And you can see that here it is working good, around 70 frames per second. I have seen it dip down to about 50, but I'll just change my camera here, get into the car, and you'll see that, all right, here a little bit slow, around 60, but still very, very good here performance, considering that this is Iris Xe graphics. Now, if we did have that faster RAM with this, it would be even better, this performance, but looking great. I'm going to step it up now to something a little bit more demanding, and that is The Witcher 3. I have it set to 720p, and it is on the low settings. So we're getting, look at this, 60 frames per second, and I'm in the built-up town here where normally it's going to be the worst. When you're out in the countryside, the frame rate gets even better than this. Now, you can run it at 1080p, but you take a bit of a hit on the average frames per second. You lose about 15 to 20 average frames per second. So I prefer this title still to play it at 720p, but it's doing well, the Iris Xe graphics, for such a title like this. Very demanding game now. This is Cyberpunk 2077, which I sometimes call Cyber Glitch 2077 because, well, you get the idea. It's so glitchy. Whoa, that's a good little stunt. And we are getting over 30 frames per second. Now, I think this is actually pretty good considering how demanding this game. That guy just dropped down. More little glitches and bugs with Cyberpunk. They still haven't fixed this game. Oh, look at that. He just decided to... Always with the glitches. It's so funny, this game. Cyber glitch, cyber flop. Anyway, you can see here that the performance is looking pretty good for integrated graphics. Now, what happens if I decide to just take a few guys on? Is it going to completely lag out? Probably will. They're going to completely kill me. But it's still playable, so very good frame rate here out of such a demanding title. But Iris Xe graphics, yes, is really quite impressive. Temperatures and fan noise now. So it has had a very good average temperature here, just around 38, as you can see on the cores. And it does not have any thermal throttling whatsoever. You can see this one. This is just to do with the power limit, which of course it's going to hit that because it's limited to 35 watts. So it will actually end up pulling, I've seen from the wall, around 59 watts, which is very similar to another mini PC that I'm reviewing that has the 1135 G7. So very similar performance there. And now at idle, you're only looking at about 6 watts power consumption, which is not too bad, to 5 to 6. So it's not really a high power use system. It's just when you're gaming, then it starts to pull around the 60 watts. What about the fan noise? So very good for the most part, but when you do push it really hard, you do hear the fan. It's more of a whooshing noise. It's not high pitched. Here's a sample of it under full load. Very quick look at Linux here. So this is Linux Mint. Now I ran into some trouble with the drivers for the wireless card. So that is going to be an issue. You need to hunt around, sort out those drivers in order to get the wireless working. Apart from that, everything else does seem to be working.
Overall, I think it's really quite well spec'd here, considering the fact that you can add two 2.5-inch drives for really improving on that storage capacity, and it does have the PCIe 512GB boot drive within it. The only real con for me, and you probably guessed it, is the RAM. So 16 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM running at 3.2 gigahertz is great, but it's soldered onto the motherboard. There are no SODIMM slots, so we can't just go and add and put, say, 32 gigabytes in this, or later on, maybe if you want to run 64, it's not possible. And looking at their website, it seems that all the configurations are just 16 gigabytes of RAM. So that's really the only con for me with this mini PC, and the minor one just being the fan noise. Apart from that, fantastic performance out of the quad core. If you want to do a little bit of light gaming on the side, you don't have a dedicated GPU, and you want to run, say, older titles like something like GTA 5 or even GTA 5 Online, you can play it with this, even at 1080p, just run lower settings and you still get a decent frame rate, which is normally around 60 frames per second on average. Even demanding titles, I was surprised to see Cyberpunk still runs on this okay, but it's only 30 frames per second. It's not amazing, and it's just at HD, not full HD, but really good that it can do it. So it plays videos with absolute ease. We've got the two 2.5 gigabit LAN ports on this, which is great. Fast wireless. If you're a Linux user, you're going to have a few issues with the drivers with that particular chipset. You have to hunt around and solve that particular problem there. And then it can run 3 displays, and you're able to run some of those with, of course, Thunderbolt 4 up to 8K. And with the Thunderbolt 4, you can even run external GPUs through this. If you wanted to add more graphics power, you decided you wanted to game on it later down the track, you get one of those Razer external GPUs, for example, plug it into this and use it that way. So all up, this is a great mini PC here. Thanks for watching my review of the EliteMini TH50.